Let me tell you a story that sounds like it was pulled straight from a political drama full of power, betrayal, and survival, but this isn't fiction. This is a real account from the Bible, and at the center of it all is a queen so ruthless. She slaughtered her own grandchildren just to steal the throne. Her name was Athaliah. She wasn't just any queen. She was the daughter of King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, two of the most wicked rulers in Israel's history. Athaliah grew up surrounded by idolatry, corruption, and thirst for power. And when her moment came, she showed she had learned from the worst. Athaliah married into the royal family of Judah, becoming the wife of King Joash. But her influence didn't stop there. She brought with her the worship of Baal and tried to turn Judah's heart away from God. Even her son Ahaziah, when he became king, followed in her evil footsteps. But Ahaziah's reign didn't last long. He was killed during a political purge, a judgment from God for his wickedness. And this is where Athaliah saw her chance. With her son dead, she did the unthinkable. To secure power for herself, she ordered the murder of every royal heir, her own grandchildren included. The palace must have been filled with screams, confusion, and bloodshed. One by one, the innocent children were dragged away. It was a massacre driven by ambition. Athaliah didn't flinch. She thought she had wiped out any threat to her rule. The throne was now hers, and she ruled as queen over Judah. But in her arrogance, she missed one small detail. A baby, just 1 year old, was hidden away. His name was Joash. He was the son of Ahaziah, her grandson. And God had a plan for this child. A brave woman named Jehosheba, who was Athaliah's stepdaughter and the wife of the priest Jehoiada, secretly rescued Joash. Jehosheba and Jehoiada took the baby to the temple and hid him there for 6 years. Imagine the courage that took, raising a royal heir right under the queen's nose. Athaliah had no idea. While she ruled with a heavy hand, pushing Baal worship and silencing God's prophets, the true king was growing up in secret. For 6 long years, Athaliah sat on the throne, believing she had eliminated every rival. She ruled without mercy. The land groaned under her leadership. Baal temples were erected. The people were confused and afraid. The legacy of David, the line through which the Messiah would come, was hanging by a thread. But God never forgets his promises. And when Joash turned 7, the time came to act. Jehoiada, the priest, called the commanders, the temple guards, and the Levites. He revealed the boy, the rightful heir to the throne, and laid out a plan to protect him and crown him king. The temple became a fortress that day. Guards took their places, swords drawn, ready to defend the child at all costs. Then, in a moment filled with tension and awe, Jehoiada brought Joash out before the people. They put the crown on his head, anointed him with oil, and shouted, "Long live the king!" The sound echoed through Jerusalem. Trumpets blasted. The people cheered. The noise was impossible to ignore. And deep in the palace, Athaliah heard it. Her heart must have stopped. She rushed to the temple to see what was happening. And there, to her horror, she saw a boy wearing a crown, her grandson alive and declared king. She tore her robes and screamed, "Treason! Treason!" But the people didn't rise to support her. They had seen her evil for too long. The priest Jehoiada gave the order, "Seize her, but don't kill her in the house of the Lord." So they dragged her out to the palace gates, and there, justice was served. Athaliah was executed. Her reign of terror had ended. The wicked queen who tried to erase God's plan had fallen. And in her place, the child, just 7 years old, sat on the throne. But he wasn't alone. Jehoiada the priest became his mentor, guiding him in the ways of the Lord. Under Jehoiada's influence, Joash would go on to restore the temple and lead Judah back to God. It was a new beginning, one that showed the power of divine protection, even in the face of darkness, one that proved no evil plan can ever destroy what God has destined. Athaliah thought she had the final word. She believed that by silencing every heir, she could rewrite history. But God always writes the last chapter, even when the odds seem hopeless, even when the enemy appears to be in control. He always preserves a remnant, always keeps a light burning. This story isn't just ancient history. It's a powerful reminder that God is faithful, even when evil seems to prevail. That in the darkest moments, He's still working behind the scenes, protecting, positioning, and preparing deliverance for His people, just like He did with Joash. There's something else worth noticing here, the role of Jehosheba and Jehoiada. They weren't kings. They didn't have armies. But their faith, courage, and quiet obedience saved a nation. Sometimes, the heroes in God's story are the ones who simply do what's right, even when it's risky. And let's not overlook Joash, a child hidden for 6 years, chosen for a destiny he didn't yet understand. He didn't need to fight or plot his way to the throne. All he had to do was be willing when the time came. Because when God opens a door, no one can shut it. Maybe you're facing a situation where the enemy seems to be winning, where the bad guys are on the throne and everything feels lost. But take heart. If God can hide a king in a temple, protect him for 6 years, and then lift him up at just the right time, He can do the same for you. Your story isn't over. Your future isn't erased. No matter who tries to shut you down, God has the final say. He can raise you up from obscurity. He can protect you when no one else sees your value, just like He did with Joash. Athaliah tried to kill a promise, but God preserved it. That child was more than a king. He was part of a royal bloodline that would one day lead to Jesus Christ. Nothing and no one can stop the promises of God. Not a wicked queen, not a murderous plan, not even death. So the next time it feels like evil is winning, remember this story. Remember the boy who should have died but lived. Remember the priest and the princess who dared to defy darkness. Remember that one act of obedience can ripple across generations. You may not be a king or a queen, but your decisions matter. Your courage, your prayers, your obedience, they can shift the course of history. Just like Jehosheba, just like Jehoiada, just like the faithful few who refused to bow to Baal. Athaliah's story ends in tragedy. Her name is remembered in shame. But Joash's story begins with hope, a hope that outlives the darkness. That's the beauty of God's plan. It takes brokenness and brings healing. It takes hiding and turns it into honor. So, whatever season you're in, whether you feel hidden, overlooked, or attacked, know this: God sees you. He's writing a story you can't yet see. And when the time is right, He'll reveal it for all to witness. Just like He did for a forgotten boy in the temple. And here's the most amazing part: God doesn't need a perfect situation to move. He works in the chaos, in the danger, in the middle of betrayal and bloodshed. That's where His power shines brightest. Joash was surrounded by death, but God gave him life. Raised in hiding, but God brought him to the throne. Forgotten by many, but chosen by God. That's the kind of transformation He still does today. Maybe you feel disqualified. Maybe your past is messy, your surroundings broken. But if Joash could rise from a blood-soaked past into his divine purpose, so can you. God's not finished. He's just getting started. You might be in a season where God is hiding you, not to punish you, but to protect you. Because when the time comes, the unveiling will be undeniable. The trumpet will sound, and everyone will know you were chosen. This is the story of Athaliah and Joash, a story of wickedness and redemption, of betrayal and divine protection, of silence turning into a shout of victory. It's a reminder to stay faithful, even when evil seems to reign, to trust that God sees what no one else sees, and that His promises, though delayed, are never denied, because in the end, it wasn't Athaliah's voice that echoed through history. It was the cry of the people shouting, "Long live the King," as God's plan unfolded. And that same God is still unfolding plans today. In your life, in your family, in the quiet places where you feel hidden, let this story strengthen your faith. Let it stir your courage. You never know what legacy your obedience will unlock. Maybe you're called to protect a promise, to raise a future leader, to be a voice of truth in a culture of compromise. Don't underestimate the assignment God has given you. And if you feel like the last one standing, like Athaliah has wiped out everything good, hold on, God has a remnant. He has a Joash, and he has you. The world needs more people like Jehosheba, quietly brave, fearlessly faithful, fiercely loyal to God. People who act not for applause, but because it's right. Athaliah's power was loud, but temporary. God's plan was quiet, but eternal. Evil may rise fast, but righteousness always outlasts it. So keep trusting. Keep believing. Keep building what God called you to build, even in hiding. Because one day, the trumpet will sound and the world will see what God has been preparing all along. Let this story remind you that even in chaos, God is not confused. Even in danger, he is not absent. And even in silence, he is speaking. Athaliah's end came swiftly. Joash's beginning came suddenly. That's how God works. When he moves, things change fast. So stay ready, stay faithful, and trust that the God who saved Joash, who kept a promise alive through a child, is the same God who holds your future. He's the God who protects destinies, even when they're under attack. Who keeps dreams alive even when the world says they're dead. Who raises up leaders from the least expected places. And if he did it before, he can do it again, in your family, in your calling, in your life. This is the legacy of Joash, and it can be your legacy too. Hidden but chosen, threatened but protected. Destined for something greater than the throne, destined to be part of God's story. If this story opened your eyes and stirred your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. We're here to retell Bible stories with clarity, emotion, and truth, and your support helps us keep going. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you won't miss what's coming next. There's so much more ahead. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you richly.